Hello, everyone. My name is Azevedo. I'm a solution specialist from Ergosoft, and today I'm here with Toby, and that takes care for business development. And today are going to talk about the highlights of Ergosoft 17.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Hélder. So my name's Toby Burnett, and we're going to talk about some of the real-world issues that our customers have needed solutions for and how they have been solved with the Ergosoft RIP software. We're going to cover a selection of tools that are found in our Job Composer, our Color GPS, Color Equalizer, HotFolder, and QueueManager applications. So thank you, Hélder. And first, and this is a regular question that I get asked by customers, is why do they sometimes get caught out with PDF files not printing as they would expect? It's very occasionally that it happens, but the file preview that they see at the desktop can be different to the images printed by their RIP. So would you be able to start with showing how customers can check for that in Ergosoft, please?
Yeah. Okay. So for this question, I would like to add as well that it can be used for other things, not only just for PDFs. But in this case, I will show you an example with a PDF file, so you can have a best understanding, or the customer can have a best understanding how they can have a better preview of what they are going to get out of the printout. So for this case, I'm just going to import this PDF that I have right here. And just to explain what is special with this PDF is that you have here a complete yellow background, and this symbol is on 100% cyan. As you can see there, even if you do a bit of zoom, you see that it looks green. And this actually happens because there is an overprint option on the file. Okay, so this is how it look in the Ergosoft, but actually, if you open it with, for example, another software, a PDF preview, you will see that will be only cyan and yellow. But since in here there is overprint, you will see like the two colors are mixing. So if you want to see how it's going to look after you print out, if you come here to the job pre-fly, you can do a render of this job. So for example, if I use RGB HTML, and I just click in render, it will open the image, and you can see that as the yellow and the cyan on the top. Okay, so these are the colors on the file. So now I just want to show you in a different way. Now, if I just go to the mode of the prefline and go to separate HTML and click on render, now I have a different preview that show me what is printing with the individual ink channels. So I see that will print 100% cyan, and at same I see that is printing 100% yellow on the background. So with this preview, I can be sure that I know that the yellow will be print even below where is the cyan, because I have this option of overprinting. So this is a good example. Besides this, I would like to add one extra, just to show you what will allow you to do with this kind of preview. So for example, if I turn on the cut contour, and when you go to cut, there will be print marks or cut marks on the job, but you cannot see them here, right? But for example, if you do now an RGB render, we'll see now that on this preview, we will be able to see the cut marks. So it can be used as well for this case to make sure that you are printing the cut marks as well.
All right, brilliant. So that's a really good way to kind of learn to trust what's happening in Job Composer. When you open the file, what you're seeing in Job Composer, it's going to be honoring the overprinting transparency commands. So if you want to then check a quick preview, we'll also show you marks that are set for the cutter as well. That's really neat. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so this is a scenario that I was recently presented with from a large format printer in the UK. It's quite an interesting one. They get their PDF files from a customer. They're meant to be print ready with the idea that they can automate the workflow. The trouble is more than one person is designing the artwork, and depending on who designs it, depends on whether the crop marks have been set in the PDF that's sent or not. And they're all meant to be sent without any crop marks applied to the PDF. So the RIP-based workflow they have can apply everything. The trouble is the existing RIP-based workflow they've got will not handle this, so they have to check each one manually before printing. And these people print between 100 and 200 posters in every job order that they get. So they're finding now that the additional labour costs mean there's very little to no profit in the job for them. So what they asked is there a way to remove the crop marks, automatically size the file to the correct document size, which from memory is A1, then set a 3mm bleed plus the printing marks. And it has to be done in sequence, because if they, for example, were to set the bleed and then resize, the bleed size would be wrong. So they want us to know if there's a way to do that visually in a desktop application, and Job Composer fits the bill for that. And then take that, let's say, take those settings and apply them to a HotFolder so they can automate the task. Now, I was thinking composite presets are the solution to this problem. Can you show us how we can handle that, please?
Yeah, sure. Let me just create a new job. Well, actually, that is quite simple one. The customer knows what is his workflow. So I believe that most of the times it's more difficult to know exactly what is the workflow that the customer desires, than just create it and apply it. So I create a new job. I will just import here one image to use an example. So in this case, I have here a poster image that contains some print marks there on the corners, and as an example, as the customer has. So what you're going to do firstly is to crop the image to the area that the customer desires, right? So to do that, you can go to the crop option here. And since you know the dimensions that the customer is looking for, that is 60 by 40, I can actually set this center. So we'll crop on based on the center, and I can save it as a preset that has these settings here. So it's actually the same. I just click OK, and I'm just gonna, in this case, just give it a name based on the size.
Okay.
Click OK and apply. So here it is. So besides that, the customer wanted to scale it to a specific size, right? So you can go to scale, and by default, you will have here on the image format some presets, okay? But you can do your own by clicking on plus. Since in this case, let's say they are going to resize for A1. So I just go here. I already have one created here. So I select it and apply. So my image has been resized. And then he wants to have like a bleed, let's say, of 0.3 centimeters. So you can go here to the print marks that actually there are some apply already, but let's create new ones. So I just click on the plus there. I don't want a label. And here the customer just needs to set to 0.3. Click OK. You can just call it 0.3 centimeters. Click apply. Yeah. Okay. And now you have the example done. Of course, what you did now is apply individually to the image, but you create the presets. So when you mention the composite presets, you can come here to this icon. Okay, I can just click there, and we'll open this window that will allow me to create a composite preset. Okay, let's call it as well a group of presets. So let's follow the same steps it did in the Job Composer. So the first one, we went to the crop. So let's turn it on. Select the preset you have done. That is already there. Okay. Then let's go to the image format. Let's turn it on in here. Let's turn on the size. Select the size you want from the list. Let's see where it is. Where is my I1? Do I have it in here? Yeah, it's in here already. Sorry. So it's done. And then you still need to go to the print marks. Let's turn them on as well, and just select the one you create with a 0.3 centimeters. So now all the settings have been selected. The only thing you need to do is click OK. You can give it a name. I will call it poster. Okay. And now it is there available on the list of image composing presets. So actually how this work now? So for example, now if I create a new job and I have this setting on, and if I import the same image file he edit priori, if I import it again, all the settings will be applied and the job will be done.
Yeah.
So as you can see, it's quite simple. And now it gives you the chance to automate your workflow even more. As you mentioned, you can use HotFolders. So for this case, I have here the control center. You just go to the HotFolders. I already have one HotFolder done, but what I'm going to do is just go to the settings because you can edit the HotFolder. And the only thing I need to do to make this HotFolder process the files as you have done is just go to image import. Here on the image preset, I just load the poster presets and click OK. And from now on, all the image that will be dropped on this HotFolder will be processed accordingly our settings.
Okay, so thanks for showing me that one. That was really good. And here's another one I was asked about recently. This customer already has an Ergosoft RIP. They're driving 2 roll-to-roll printers, but his flatbed cutter is only used with the cutting software that came with it. So it does not have a cut driver from Ergosoft. They take all the files and they position them manually at the desktop, and then they save this big PDF. They send that to Ergosoft, and Ergosoft is just used to process the already laid out images. And they make a cut file in Illustrator for the cutter. So it's a long-winded way to work. They're a bunch of files are put on a canvas, and it takes them quite a bit of time. We discussed how we could speed that up, maybe with a cutter queue as opposed to doing it manually, and that's something they want to have a look at adding. Can you show us, please, how Ergosoft can handle very quickly nesting, printing, and cutting in a manual process, and then maybe how a HotFolder would also handle that, please?
Okay, so easily to say the customer wants to import the multiple files, rearrange them in the job composer, and then apply a cutting path automatically or in the easy way to cut around all the image. Well,
that's it. Yeah.
To do that, I will just create a new job. Let's just close those here, and let's not forget to change our compose presets to none, otherwise we'll be apply all those settings. But it could be apply if it's for the case of the poses. And what I will do now is just import some files. So let's import those ones. So now that I have those files on the job composer, one thing I can do is simply just go here to the option or the shortcut for the rectangular nesting. Okay, it is here on my workspace, but if you cannot find it, you can always click on the right click of your mouse, and you can see the options that are showing and hiding, and this one is the one for the nesting. So if you come here, you have multiple options to automatically rearrange the image in the different ways. So for example, you can, for easy cutting without rotation, so it will align the image to be easier for the cutter, let's say, or of course you have the ones for reduce the minimum waste that you can rearrange them so it will use less media, right? So for example, you can leave this on here. And now if you want to apply a cut to all the image, that's quite simple. And actually, you can see that is quite is activated already. But the first thing you need to do is to activate the cut contour that is already on, that I turn it on to show you on the preview question. And then after that, you will find here on the properties and action of the job, there is the job cut settings. And in here is where you define the cut paths and the cut settings. So cut path defines where it should be cut, and the cut setting is how it should be cut, for the different cut methods that you have, like preferred cut or kiss cut, So the first thing you're going to do is select the cut path in here, and let's just create a new one. So you have an idea how to select or to define to cut around the image. You have different options for the cut path, but for this case, you want to use the cut image border. So in here, you can just go and select rectangle, and it will cut the rectangle of the image. So for example, if I select it, of course, you can shrink, because might be that you want to cut inside of the image, because might be that the machine has some issue and cuts not perfectly, so you can try to decrease that issue. And then you just need to click OK. You can call it the name that you want to define this type of cutting. So I'll just call it cut around, for example. Click OK. And actually, if I set these to none once again, so you can see there is no cut path assigned there, but since I select the cut around, you see where it's going to be cut. And of course, in here in the cut settings, you could define, depending on the cutter, how it should be cut. In this case, I will just leave the custom settings, and I click apply. If you want to have a better view, you can always go to view and change the view for the workspace print and cut. And here you'll be able to see in the better way your image and where each one of them will be cut.
Okay, that's quite neat. So that's just raised a question there. We in the cut path settings, Ergosoft allows our customers to create multiple cut paths in one job. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, I've got some more questions on that in a bit then. Thank you.
Welcome.
So if we wanted to now automate this with HotFolders, is there a way to do that?
Yes. So let me just minimize this once again. Let's come back here to the HotFolder. So in the HotFolder, let's go to the settings. And on the second tab on job, well, you can define here, well, of course, I don't have this set that way, but if you want, you have the options for nesting. So automatically will nest the group of image that you have in the HotFolder. Of course, the number of image that will be in the HotFolder will depend on the settings that you will use, because it might be certain number of image, or after a certain length, or after a certain time. It depends on your production, but you can set the nesting automatically in here. And of course, if you want to cut as well, there is the tab for cut contour, and you are allowed here to activate it, select your cut environment, and even select the cut settings that you don't have it here, but that would be easy because you can even create it from here as well, because there are the cut path. So for example, it would be the cut around, right? And you will have the custom settings. And if I click OK.
Brilliant. So that's directly copying what's happening in Job Composer when you set the file up, so that it's almost foolproof, should we say?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Then if I click OK.
Yeah.
This HotFolder right now is going to, if you drop an image there, it will process the image as it did prior to the poster, crop and resize, and then we'll generate automatically the cut path and send it to the cutter as well.
So that's combined the last two workflow questions. We are dealing with the pre-press tasks on the poster, and then we're getting the best fit to the material, printing it and cutting it automatically.
Exactly.
So with that flow, there's no manual work for a customer to do.
No, you can just drop the files on the HotFolder and let it do the job.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant. That's excellent. Thank you. Thanks for the answer.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now here's a question from a customer who prints a lot of stickers, and I think we touched on this with the cut file question from the earlier example. But so these guys get lots of stickers, they're quite small, and they want to fill the role with as best as they can, but they need to group the files in 16 or 32 odd sections, depending on how big the original sticker is. That makes it basically easier for all the picking, packing, posting for them. So they get the image file, it arrives, think of it as a circle maybe. It's got a cut path around it. They define that as a kiss cut because they don't want it to go all the way through, so they can peel the sticker. And then they nest those in Illustrator and they send them in 16s or 32s sections, make a canvas again, send that to the RIP, and the RIP prints the files. And in Illustrator, because this customer again doesn't have a cutting facility on their RIP, they have to make a cut path to make all these sections, and that's a through cut, and then they have a kiss cut for all the small stickers, and they send that to the cutting software on their cutter, and then that waits till it gets the files, loads cut path, does the two cuts. They told me that's 40 to 50 minutes per job to set all that up and manually print it. So I wondered how Ergosoft could take care of those smaller files, group them into those required layouts, print them, make the cut files, and give us a kiss cut and a through cut. If we can do that for them, that will save them a ton of time.
Okay, so in this case, the customer wants to have his sticker multiply for a certain number and then apply the two types of cutting, one for the individual file and another type of cutting for the group as all. Okay, so let me just firstly just go to the normal or standard view. Actually, I can send this file to print, no problem. Let's close it. Let's open a new job. And now let's import a file, a sticker file. Let's go in here. Okay. Here I have this small star that in this case is my sticker. And let's do one example based on what the customer is looking for. I will just remove the print marks by option. Okay, there's no need for the workflow, but just to look nicer. And now what I will do is simply just go here to duplicate. And of course, here the multiplication will be based on what the customer means with the perfect size for him, right? And I will just select the S grind. And like, for example, I will say that I want 8 versus 4. So let's say 32. And I can click on duplicate. And as you can see, it duplicated, so I have the correct number. And then if I want, I can have them all selected and just click with the right button and group, or even use the command Shift G.
Okay.
So now all of them are group. So it's like just a big group, right? So for example, if I click here on the image and go to information, PostScript and PDF, more, I see that there is a hot color there called Kiss Cut. So that's my cut path, right? So what I'm going to do is click on the white part, that is the job. I will change here the view to print and cut so you can see what you are doing. And you can see that based on the settings that you have already set, is cutting through all the little squares. But this is what the customer does not want, right? But there is no problem. So what you're going to do? I'm going to click here in the cut path. I will just create a new one. So for example, these are the settings that are applied right now to the job. And yeah, you want to use the rectangle, but you want to use image group box for grouped image. So because you want to crop the complete group. So I just need to select that option, click OK, and say group cat, for example. So I can identify the mode. As you can see, automatically change for around the group image. So now let's create a new cat path because you want to cat the stars individually. So I just create a new one. And in this case, I will activate the path from image data, go here to the spot color, and just write the name of the spot color. Just make sure that the name is correctly written as the name of the color. Otherwise, the software will not recognize it and it will not work. And besides that, I have do not print this spot color because, well, in my case, I know that is transparent, but still, I don't want it to be printed. So I just click OK. I will call it KissCat. And automatically, you can see that there is the cat path for the stars based on the spot color. And of course, these options are selected there. And of course, you could set the cat settings to define how it should be cut, right? For example, for the group cut, you will make like perforate cut, and for the kiss cut, you will like superficial cut, right? Something like that. So the thing that you're going to do now, I just go here to new, and I will save this group of path, right? And I will save them just to say for, and call it group jobs, for example. So I know that anytime that I'm going to do this kind of job, I don't need to set this anymore. And I just come here to the settings and select, in this case, from cut around as this one and the group jobs. So I can easily change on my workflow on the fly.
Okay, so I've got a question from that. If I want, so let's call that now a nest of stickers. If I want 3 nests to be printed, is it just a case of duplicating the group?
Yeah, so you can just select the group and actually use the command Control-D. And well, if I just go back to the view, maybe it will be easier for you to see. And expand here the view. So I can click Control-D or just click on duplicate. And as you can see, it duplicates the group.
Okay.
And of course, if you want to rearrange because you have an empty area, you can always use as well the nesting tool to, to rearrange the groups and to reduce the media or rearrange for cutting.
Okay, so we've got a nest inside a nest.
Yeah.
Essentially. Okay, brilliant. That's really cool. So if it's a case of, in the example we talked about, it's quite a long manual process. If I now want to print and cut this, what do we do?
So to print and cut is quite simple. For example, you just need to go to the button to print. It will ask you, to do any change if you want for, or specific, change the name, add copies for the job. So I just need to click OK. And after I click OK, it asks me if I want to cut it as well. And I just need to click OK. So now the job will be sent to the print queue and to the cut queue. And then I can have the command to print and cut wherever I want.
Okay, that's awesome. That will save so much time for people that do it manually, and for this customer, hours. Brilliant, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, great. I have another question about nesting, and funnily enough, from another sticker customer. So their RIP, and I think this image that we have is probably going to be a good example for it. So their RIP can happily nest rectangular files. So if we have our star PDF, if they were to want 100 of those, they would get a sheet full of them, but lots of white space because it can only take a rectangle. And it means that when they print something, they have a lot of waste. They very similar. They have a kiss cut through the file. They want to fill the roll up, and they've tried to work out, if they can physically lay the images closer to each other, which they can do in Illustrator. So they called it interlocking. They can lay all the stars or circles close to each other. The trouble is that the amount of time that takes for them to do it and then send the big PDF, with 300 stickers to the RIP, and for the RIP to then process that, the amount of time that costs them against how much the paper waste that it costs them, it's fairly even, so they just don't bother. So they're just burning lots of paper or lots of time. And I wondered if we can nest these odd-shaped files and do it very quickly, and still follow with a kiss cut, but fill an area of the width of the roll by a meter or something like that. And how can we do that with Ergosoft, please?
Okay, so let's say I want like 100 to 100 copies of this same file, but I want it multiplied, but still don't waste too much media. So one thing I can do is select my file, and once again on the nesting shortcuts, there is one that's called TrueShape nesting, and I just need to open it, and then I can select the file or the multiple files because it could have more. And then I just need to add the number of copies I wanted. So let's use 200. That's okay. I could set some settings for the angles of rotation, so to rearrange the image. The space between the files, well, you can reduce or increase the distance you want between them. You can say that you want to allow objects to be placed in the top of the white, because sometimes you don't have a transparent background, but you have white, right? So you need to set that on. And then you have the fill options that I will not mind for now, because I really just care about 200 copies of this file. And for this file, I'm not caring about this option as well, because I already have a cat path or a spot color defined with the cat path I want. But if my file was not prepared for cutting, I could add a cat line in here. So I could give it the name, and the software would apply to every element this cat path. Okay. So I will ignore this because I already have. So now I'll just click OK, and the software will process the file and will deliver me a job with 200, in this case, these stars that are rearranged in the area to reduce the medium waste. And of course, if I click now on the job and go to the cat settings, because I already had the preset set there, automatically apply, and you can see that, well, you have your 200 stars to be printed and cutted. So
okay, I have a quick question on the cutting then. So we have two cut paths. Excuse me. So we have two cut paths for the job. It's a roll-to-roll printer, so all we need to do is just cut at the end of the job and do the kiss cut. Is it easy to take the group cut away from here and make a new preset for this job?
Sorry?
So there's two cut paths on there. There's a group cut and a kiss cut. We don't need the group cut because it's a roll-to-roll. It's just going to cut the sheet. Is it easy for me to change that if I need to?
Yeah, like if you don't want the group cut, you can just go there and set it to none, apply, and we'll just do the kiss cutting.
Okay. And I can save that as a preset again for sticker cut.
I can just go there and just click OK and just call it, for example. Okay, and it's set there, and we'll just apply the kiss cut.
Perfect. Okay. That's excellent. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, so here's a tiling question. It's a good one again. So this customer tells me they get a regular job. The printout that they have is actually 2 meters wide and 4 meters long, but the material the customer wants it printed on is only available in 44 inch. So in metric, it's at 1118 millimeters, and they lose some of that for margin. So the guys in the studio, they have to work out what the section sizes could be, split them in Illustrator, and then work out if there's some kind of overlap, because the installers never align the panels properly if they don't do that. To make that more difficult for them, they get the artwork file in a JPEG format, and that's in the wrong size. So that needs to be scaled, and then they have to work out the sections. And they estimate that just this one customer, they spend a couple of hours a week planning it. Is there any way Ergosoft could resize the JPEG, make the tiling layout, sort out the overprints, print and cut the file, please?
Well, let's do an example. I think it's quite easy, but it's better if you show it so you have a better understanding. So let's import an image. Let me just go here to and select one image. Can be here the mountains, for example. And one thing I want to do, I want to select here print environment with a smaller media size. So it has, and well, the cut contour should be on because you want to cut it. So now you have here our image, and let's say this image is not 2 meters by 4, right? So the first thing you're gonna do is scale, and well, this will cover the part that the customer wants to scale the image. So we can just come here, and well, I will just keep the proportions so don't make it bad, and just raise this to 4 meters and let the rest be done automatically. And I will apply. So automatically what the Ergosoft does, if I click here in the big view, you can see that you have 4 panels. So it tiles automatically the image in different parts, right? It might be that this is already good for the customer because this is tiling in four parts, all the same size. So it's good. Well, if he wants to fill the complete media, he can do that, but then one of them will be smaller than the others. So might not make sense. Anyway, if this would be okay already for the customer, but he wants to edit the part that you talk about, the overlapping, for example, what he can do is just select the image as it is, just go to the tile option here, and I can even click here on the double click on the image or just go to the view and edit. And here in the edit view, you are able to see better the tiles of the image. And here you can see how it's being divided. So you can see that it's divided in 4 equal parts, okay? But of course, if you wanted to change this value, you could do it, by selecting it and change the value. For example, here for the vertical, that I would say that is already good, but I will just do an example so you can understand what I mean. So for example, if I want to divide it, all those tiles in 2, I could just, type and click OK, and it's dividing already the image, all the tiles, okay? Of course, I will discard this part and go to the horizontal ones that are the ones that we have and we feel that are okay. And just let's cover the part of the overlap that the customer needs. So here on the overlap, you can define the value for the overlap, let's say, for example, 3 centimeters. And you see this area that is layout highlighted. So it means where is applying that overlap. And that overlap in this case is based just repeating the image fill. So it's repeating a bit of the next tile on the first tile, let's say. Or you can have it as white, so it will be empty, or you can even have like half transparent, okay? This, well, the customer needs to decide which is the best for them. And of course, if they want to add some line to visually know where to place the tiles, they can do that as well. So for example, let's say that you are happy with these settings, right, for the tiling. So you can just, once again, save it as a preset. I will just click OK and just call it tile. Okay. So, and is applied to my image. And now I can just go back to the view standard. And if I want now to cut this job, I can simply, once again, just go to the cut settings. Of course, there is nothing defined to cut it right now, but if you go to the cut around that you have done before, and if you apply, let's just change here the view again for print and cut. you can see that is applied to all the tiles.
Awesome. So we could make a excuse me, a composite preset for this job, and then the job would automatically process in the way that we've seen with some of the other examples.
Yeah, the same way it did before with the other ones. So for example, let's go back to the normal view. You can go here to the image composing presets, right? So the first thing he wanted to do is the image format, because he wanted to scale the image to a specific size, right? Of course, the customer can have already a preset done. He have not done this preset, but he can just, just come here and set the size that was. In this case, I can even set it like, or I can do it here as well with the percentage or a real size. So here I can actually put like 4 meters for 2, if that is the case of the customer. And then you can go here to tile, turn it on, select tile, and then just click OK. And now we have another composite preset that will resize the image and tile it automatically. So for example, if I create a new job, of course, this image that I'm going to import probably will not be resize matching the correct resolution. But as you can see, it's resize and just style the image.
Ah, brilliant. So thanks for showing us that. Now, I know that Ergosoft allows us to set the order of actions when automating processes, so a sequential process. And I think that this banner production requirement that I want to talk about is a good one to show how our image add-ons can be applied sequentially in order to produce some artwork. So the printer gets the artwork from the client. In this case, document size is correct, but they only get the design. It's a banner, so it needs to be. Somebody has to make the seam sizes. Somebody has to define where to put the eyelets for a standard banner. So the artwork's pretty good. It just there's no, let's call it technical pre-press processes have been applied. The customer also sends some information with these banners because they all go to different retail locations around the country. So they get some information that they want printed on a barcode that just basically says what is the store ID and where is it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Zurich, for example. Those labels sometimes don't get applied to the same banner. So what this customer wanted to do is actually produce the seam, produce the eyelet, and produce a barcode. And when they have the seam stitched, the barcode goes behind the banner, so it can't get lost or damaged. How can we do that, please?
Okay, and create a new job. And let's import the image again. So if I understood correctly, this customer needs to have like a seam mark around the image, have a barcode, and the eyelets apply as well. Then what you can do, or the first thing I'm going to do to make it easier for us to visualize, I would just remove the print marks so we don't have any print marks. Let's bring it here to the middle, to the center. So now, here on the right, you have one tool called Add-Ons, okay? And here you will find multiple pre-done applications or ready-to-use applications that customers need daily on their production. And one of them that you mentioned is the seam mark. So I just go there and select the seam margin, okay? And I will just apply it to the list of add-ons that I want to apply on this image. And of course, I have here all the settings regarding the seam mark. So I can set the size. I will put like a big size so you can see it better. Of course, you have other options like the width of the line and the length, and even the gap between the lines, or even the color. So I will just click OK and leave the rest standard. For example, if I apply it right now, you see that the seam mark has been applied. You can see it really easily there. But now if I want to add more things, I can just come here. And for example, I will select the eyelets. I will apply them. And of course, there is here the settings for my eyelets that I can say that, well, the distance between them should be, let's say, 6 centimeters. And as well, there are the other options that you can set to edit the eyelets. And for example, I will use this one so you can easily visualize where they are. I will just choose the color yellow so it's easier with the contrast. So if I apply, you know where the position for the eyelets will be. I think it's easy for seeing, visualizing. So now I go back to image add-ons and I will just select, in this case, for example, the barcode. Okay. And if I understood correctly, because I don't want to lead anyone in error, the barcode, of course, when you create a new one, the text information or depends. For example, if I create a QR code, this is the information that will be inside of the barcode when you read it, right? So, for example, you can do different presets for the barcodes based on the customer, okay? Or if you have, of the customer has already pre-made barcodes, okay, they can then import or apply that to the image using a different add-on, okay? But let's say that you're going to use this one. So I'll just click OK. And for example, now if I apply the 3 of them together, I see that the barcode is there. Maybe need to move it a bit to the left, right? To don't, because you want to see it on the back and there will be the eyelets will be cut through, so it's not intended. So let's just go here and say -3 centimeters should be okay. Yeah, here is no problem.
Yeah.
So here you have it. And of course, if you want to save this, you just need to just go there, plus, and click OK, and just click OK, and now it's saved. Just one thing that I want to add to this, because you've been talking about cutting. So for example, if you come to a case like this, that you have the eyelets and might be that you normally have a machine to, to press where are the circles. But let's say that you want to use in a different material and you need to cut it with the laser or with the blade or wherever, how you can do that easily. So just let me tell you that if you come here and let's just create a test cut path. If you come to the cut path settings, there is include path, include add-ons. So you can just select it in here. And if I click OK now and just call it add-ons, of course, there is no setting here. So you cannot see there still. But now you can see that recognize the add-ons and can cut the eyelets automatically if you want as well. Okay.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks for showing that. So I want to talk about a customer that recently bought Ergosoft. And why I'm talking about this is it solved some issues that they were having around how our printer calibration features helped. And I think these are good ones to talk about and demonstrate. So the client had 3 printers. They were all the same. And everybody expected that they would be able to match any printed output across all of them. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. They'd spent a considerable amount of time adjusting the settings and the profile settings in the RIP software that came with the printers, but they just could not get the same output across all 3, and they just weren't matching. So it meant that they had to remember which printer they'd previously printed a job on for which customer, and it often meant that one of those printers was standing idle while other jobs were backing up on the printers that they had. So they wanted to know how Ergosoft could allow them to print on any printer and get the same output. And our linearization tools help with that. They wanted Ergosoft basically to decide which printer to use. They didn't want to say, I'll print this on printer 1, 2, or 3. They just wanted the RIP to sort that out. So I'd like to cover how we can do that. And because they then had a, let's call it a job management issue, because they didn't know which printer the software had sent them to, they needed an application to show them where the job was, what the status was, at a very easy glance. So can you please take us through how we can deal with calibrating printers to match each other, letting the RIP decide where to print, and then how we see where each job is, please?
Okay. So I try to keep this answer simple so you don't get too confused. So let's say that if you have 3 printers that are the same model, same inks, right? Same. You can call them like same printers. If you want them to print the same way, what you can do, of course, it depends the context that you are. Like, if are the 3 new, or you already have one, you bought 2 new ones. So depending of the context, but the rule will be the same. Let's say you have one of the machines, you do a calibration and a profile to that machine, so you optimize it for your goal. And after you finish to optimize that printer, what you can easily do, for example, is let's go here to the print environments. So for example, I have this print environment that I did for one printer, okay? So what I could easily do, I could just copy this print environment, say, call it like that is for the printer. Let's say one printer that I don't have. Let's say that is for the printer number 5. That is a new printer that I bought, same model. I can just copy, right? I can change the port settings to set it to my new printer. Okay, so I'm not printing on the same machine because that's not the intention. So I could even create here a new port, let's call it printer 5. Okay. And now the only thing that I would do with this print environment that already contains, if I open it so you can see as well, it has already the calibration, the profile done.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I would do is to have it selected, go to the calibration menu that is always attached to the area of the print environment, always there. Or actually you can go to tools as well, right? And go to linearization and profile tools, and you will find it here, the calibration menu. But let's just go from here. You can go to the option density relinearization, and you will just need to print a chart, relinearize this printer to collect the information how this printer is behaving, and then after that you can just start printing. And or I cannot say 100% sure because might be some issues related to other things, but you could expect have the same color results on the different machine that is the same model.
So I know we've not covered linearization in detail today, but our linearization wizard is iterative. So it measures and corrects and measures and corrects until the printer has basically good gray balance. Is this doing the same with relinearization, following the same process, but matching to printer number 1?
Yeah, so basically the relinearization, what it does, it prints the chart and it has expect values from the first printer, right? And when you measure it, it collects how this printer is printing, and at same readjusts to the expected results.
Okay, so that's like a standardized, industry standard way of getting the printer to match a known standard for dot gain and density, so the ICC profile can be used on both printers.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. So I've now got 5 printers, not 3. We're at printer 5. So how do I get the software to decide which of the printers that I want to send the file to so that my operator doesn't have to think about that?
Okay. So here I have multiple printers, right? Okay, the printer 4 and the printer 3 are not the same model as printer 1, 2, and 5. So the 1, 2, and 5 are exactly the same printer. Okay, so actually all of them, the 5, have individual print queue that you can control. But if you want to, let's say, divide the production between the 3 printers that are the same, 1, 2, and 5, what you can do is, for example, if I come here to this print environment, that is for the printer 1, and if I go to settings, output device, I can use the printer pool. Actually, on this printer pool, I already have two printers to add. That is the printer 1 and the printer 2. And actually, I could just edit and, just select the printer 5.
Okay.
And just add it to the list as well. Okay. Of course, now the only thing I need to do is go to the print environment of my printer 5 and set it to be on the printer pool as well. So if I go there, I just set it there as a printer pool and is already in the same group. So what happened now? If I create a job, for example, this one, and if I send it to print, and let's call it test printer pool. Now let's just go to the control center. Let's go to the queues. And for example, let's start the print queue for the printer 1 and for the printer 5. So you can understand how this works. Well, and here you have the print queue for the printer 5 and for the printer number 1. Okay. And if you notice here, you will find the job that you just sent to print the printer pool, right? And you can see that is in both queues. And for example, if you they are offline, so it's available in any of those. But for example, if I turn this to manual start and trigger this job to be printed on this printer, you see it's waiting for start here as well, but you will not be able to print it on the queue from the printer number 1. So it gets a constraint right now. So of course, if I put it offline and I did not print it, well, that will need to, it will not allow it to print. So for example, another thing that you can define as well, if a job can be printed in one printer or in the other, because sometimes, let's say you have the 3 printers and might be that in the printer number 1, you change the media to a different one, right? So you don't want to print the jobs on that printer that will not match the media. So for example, on the media list, you can activate or select the media that is loaded, tell it to check the type size. And if this job was created on a print environment with a different media selected, the software will detect that is not matching the media and will not allow it to go on that queue. So that can be done as well for the situations where you change temporarily the media of the printer.
Okay, that's a good fail-safe. And I see the icon there in the control center, QueueManager. Can you show us how that application works, please? Because I think that's how we can see any print job running through the RIP.
So here, the QueueManager is like the database of our production, right? So it's where you see what is happening right now or what happened already. So you can keep track of everything. Like, for example, you have 2 print queues open, so it tells us that they are open and tell us that it's on this station. Even it tells us that the printer number 1 is set with the media 1, as I selected there, right? So you can see it. They are offline as well. So you can see everything that's waiting to be printed. So there are these 3 jobs that it just sent to print during this session. It shows us the ones that are waiting to be cut as well in here. Well, there is nothing to be ripped at the moment or suspended, and it tells here the jobs that have been done, and you have this one in here that was done. Okay, so in here you will be able to see all the jobs that you created. So even if there is an error, it will show up in here. If it's printing, if it was printed, if it's going to cut, if it's cutted, so you can see it as well. And here, even the RIP engines, you can see how many RIP engines are running on your PC, and if there is any action, it will show you and identify. And one of the nice things is that you can create filters to look for jobs. So for example, if I wanted to see only jobs that have been printed on the printer number 5, I could just simply create this, this filter to just show me jobs from that printer, or for a certain time range, like what I print yesterday, what I print in the last hour, or even for a different tag. So it allows you to check on your production easily the type of jobs that you are looking for.
So, typical busy printer, I've sent it to the printer pool, it's being printed, somebody drove the forklift over the print, I need to reprint it. Can I find the job here and reprint it from here?
Yeah, like if you want, of course, you have here the job. Let's say that is this one that has been done. You can just click on resend and this will be sent to the printer. Even if you want to save this job to print it in the future and contain all the data so you don't need to rip it again as well, you can always just archive. And when you archive, you can include all the data if you want. These will be storage on the folder that you define. And then if you need to reprint it in the same conditions, you can just open it and print it again without creating the job, without ripping. Just send it again to the printer.
So that will save you any of the pre-press work, any of the setup. You just restore it and reprint it, which would be great for those kind of jobs that come back regularly that are just reprints.
Mm-hmm.
No, great. Thanks, Hélder. We started that last little topic with some color management questions. So I want to just talk about color management for a minute. One of the customers that we work with, they have a retailer who's very sensitive to the reproduction of their logo, which has a bright orange. And that customer has got a printer with CMYK and additional inks. I think they've got an orange and a green or an orange and a blue, can't remember. They wanted to know if there's any way to control the amount of ink that's used in the orange color. Can they use more orange ink on the printer? So what I wanted to do is take a couple of minutes looking at how Ergosoft handles multi-channel inks on the printer and also some of the controls in our color GPS application around that, please.
Okay, so I think the best way to explain a bit more about these ink channels and how we can use them, how we can tweak them. I want to just open here a print environment. This one for the printer 3 that is a bit different from the other ones. And let's go here to the printing assignment. So here on the ink assignment, you can see that I have six ink channels. I have the process colors as standard, right? And then I have 2 slots that have, in this case, are called orange, red, blue, violet. Okay, so I don't want you to look to the names that are written there, orange and red, because actually this ink channel might be orange or might be a red or even another color. Doesn't matter. But what matters to understand from here is that Ergosoft allows you to select your ink channels based on what is your wish for that ink, right? Because might be that you have a red and might be that you want to use that red as a profile channel. And profile channel means that will be part of the process of calibration and profiling. So it means that we'll be taking consideration when generating the ICC profile. Okay, you can use it as a spot color that will be out of the profiling, and you can exclude from the density if you wish. And you know that will be a color that you only can use when you decide to use it. So you need to manually define it or automatically define it to be used. Otherwise, it will not be used in any time. And of course, there are other ink channels modes that are always interesting to know, as for example, light inks. Well, when you have a primary color, you sometimes have a light color, so you can assign it as a light color, so it will be used on the same channel as the primary color, like light cyan and cyan. Okay, standards from the industry. You have like specific spot channels as mid layer, prime, white, varnish, that are ink channels that are not normally, part of a profile, and they are not used as a spot color as to make colors, but more for a specific output, like for the background, for coating, for mixing. So those are handled in a different way as well, and they have their own dedicated channel. So it depends on how you want to use the ink channel. You have the different options. You are free to select it as you wish. So you just need to know how they will be handled afterwards. So for example, for the case of the customer that wants to use more orange, let's say, on their printout. So in this case, I could select orange and red for the orange channel, or I could use any of the profile channels listed here. That would be okay, because when we'll do the calibration, the software will recognize which color is printed by that channel. So that's what matters, is not the name. Okay, well, the name just matters to define that it's a profile channel. That's all. But the rest is defined when you do the calibration. So we recognize which color it is printed. So in this case, I have orange and red. And if I do a calibration and the profile with this, it will be integrated on the ICC. So I know that's in the area that this color belongs. So in the U, since it's orange, will be in the U of the orange. This ink channel will be used, and of course will be used as well in some yellows, in some reds, because are the hues that are around the orange area. So that's what will happen. Okay. Of course, if the customer say that they want to use more orange, and of course you can understand use more orange in two different ways. One can be use more orange as raise the density and allow the printer to print more ink. Okay, that's one thing. And that, of course, I would need to come to the density, check my density in here, and okay, I could raise the limit. So I will use more orange. I could do that, but that doesn't mean that I will have, that's what the customer means with more orange. But that's one thing. If you want more ink for the orange, raise the limit. It will print more orange. But I can understand this request from the customer in a different way. And for that, you have a different options. So I just go to the color GPS in the calibration menu. And for example, if I go next, of course, you're not going to do the profile, but I just want to show you the tool. If you go to the options, there are some ICC tools, some options that allow you to edit your profile. Okay. And you can use them after generating the profile, and you can just change the profile without needing to measure again. So you just can, tweak the profile after then, because you print some samples, you see how it looks, and if you feel that you need more, just come back and edit. So for this specific question, there is this option here, ICC color usage and limit. And in here is dedicated only for profile channels. Okay, the process colors will not be included in here, only the profile channels. In this case, you have the orange and the blue, right? So what you can do here, so there is soften color restriction. So when I said that the orange, when is in the profile, will be using the colors on the hue of the of orange, there is a restriction for the orange that to stay on that specific area and don't tackle other parts. But if what the customer mentioned with more orange means that he wants to expand the area that the orange needs to tackle, then you can just come here and just raise this value. Of course, 100% will be maybe too much, but the customer can edit and try. And for example, if I set 50, it means that I am allowing that ink to be using more expand the area of tackle of the orange. So it might be that they have more orange on recipes of orange as well, more in reds, more in yellows. So this will bring more orange to your gamut. Yes, that's another way to do it. And of course, if you feel that your orange sometimes goes in some parts that it should not, you can do some limitation based on lightness, right? So if you see that your orange is going to your super light tones and you want this to be over, you can just say, well, don't use orange in recipes that are with the lightness of above 80, for example, or you don't want in the deep dark tones. So you could just say, well, everything that's go below 20, don't use orange. Because as you increase here this restriction or decrease the restriction with a higher value, it can go more to areas that you don't wish. So then you can just try to in-short it based on that.
So that kind of allows you to push those extra colors into the color gamut, but not affect things like skin tones, for example, which are quite susceptible to change, very easy to change. You keep those more in CMYK, but allow you to push those other colors into other parts of the overall gamut.
Yeah, let's say that
Perfect.
it allows you to do that.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, I understand. So with the customer's particular question, that's more about if they've just got one color, Pantone 021, for example, we would edit that in a different way in the software. And we're going to flow quickly into the next topic, which is very much that topic. So let's call it Pantone 021 for argument's sake. I've got this Pantone color. It's a bright orange. I need or want to add more orange ink to that color. But also I want to give the customer a range of samples that they can pick from. And this is one that I've been asked before. So can I edit the color as a named color, for example, or a spot color? And then can I have a range of samples that I print, and then I can let the customer choose which one he actually wants.
Okay, so this seems like something. Let me just import here a file. So you have an example, so you understand it better, right? So for example, I have this T-shirt, and well, this is for sportswear. I want my vibrant orange, as everyone likes their nice colors. And for example, if I select it, this contains, if I'm not wrong, semi key colors, and I can see here that there is orange. And let's say that this orange is not being printed correctly, or is not as I wish, and I hope that I could get like a, like you mentioned, like to print a sample with multiple orange that I could choose and then replace it from my file. So what I can do, this can work with spot colors as well, okay? In this case, because you mentioned spot colors, but in this case I don't have one, but it could be, okay? And actually spot colors afterwards will allow you to do the automatic color replacement easily than with pixel colors, okay? Or with pixel, no, with semi-key colors. So what I will do here, I will just go open the color pick just to see, well, the reference of this color in LEB, and that I know now that is the 62746.366. So what I can do now, I can go to my tools, or easily I can just click here with the right button and just bring these tools in here, and let me just put them here. And I have here some color tools. And I would go to this one that's called a swatch book. Actually, there is here as well with the drop-down menu, or in tools, color and special features, you will find them here as well. So I will just go to my swatch book tool. And actually, I just have here a swatch book that's called my library, that are colors that I use on my design software to create my files. And what I will do is just simply add a color to this list, because it's a list that I normally work, so I want to add more colors. So I just go to click in the color pick and just check for the same color that I have on my design. That is a 62.7, 46.3, 66, and apply. Okay, and I call it orange new, let's say. Well, I already know that my orange new is not printing really well. So what I can do is to print the similar colors to have like this, like this grind full of shades that's I might like more. So one easy way to do it, you can come here to the palettes after select the color, and this one that is similar colors. And as you can see, you have like already like a palette with different tones, lightness of our color. So actually in here on the variation, you can select different variations. They will be in combination, okay? Lightness and chroma, lightness and hue, chroma and hue. So they are based in LCH. And well, they are the characteristics of color, so it is easy to anyone understand what they are looking for. Well, if you want something more light or more dark, saturated or less saturated, you can use lights and chroma, and it will give you those colors on those directions. And of course, you can select the steps. That means fine. The difference between the colors is smaller. Wide, the difference is wider, right? So for example, now I select it like this, and I can print the chart. And even before I go check that chart with you, just to mention that if you want to go more in detail, you can always use the tool Print Similar Colors that is in here. And this will allow you to select even the 3 variations together, or even just one, because might be that you say, well, the tone is correct. I just want it more, let's say, vibrant, saturated, and you leave the chroma, and it will just give you colors in the direction where with more and less chroma. So, and you will might get the color you're looking for. And of course, you can select the color number, how many colors, and the color steps as well. Okay, just to mention this, but of course, that's the easy way. So now what I will do, I just click OK. And now what you need to do is print this chart. And after you will print this chart, you will be able to see which of those orange is looking the best for you. Might be that you need to reprint a new one with a different reference color, of course, because might be that is between 2 colors there, or is not enough. So, you can reprint it as well. But let's say that you print this chart, and actually the orange that you are looking for is this one, 65, 51, 73, for example. So what you can do easily just go back to the swatch book. You just select your color, go to the color pick that is in here, and just you go to change color pick, and now let's just just replace it. So let's say that is a 67, 50, 71. You just apply. And now we have the new recipe, and you have this color on the list. And now you can simply just, for example, just click OK. Go to our image, right, that you have here. You have this orange color. I can open my swatch book, for example. I am in my library. Just go down there, select our orange new, apply, and the color will be replaced. It is already replaced on the file as well. So I just need to print it, and I can expect to have the same color that I just correct.
Okay. So it strikes me that that's a more accurate way of producing an orange the customer wants than just adding more orange in the profile.
Yes. Let's say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant. So 2 other questions on that same topic, which I think we can answer quite quickly, is there a way to print samples of all the colors the printer can print in a format that can be presented to the customer? And I saw an option for color books. So if we can cover that, and the swatches that we're making in our library, how can I share those to Adobe applications like Illustrator and Photoshop? Is there a way to export the data from Ergosoft that can be imported into an Adobe application?
So let me just close this tab in here. And one thing that you can do is, so you have the color tools that I add here, or you have in the drop-down menu, right? And one of them is the LEB and RGB color book. This is one, okay? And actually what you can do here, of course, you have the different options to generate the color book. Of course, this will define the size of the color books. I will leave it as LEB. I'll leave it as a standard. Let's not play too much with it. And what I can do is, just print out of gamut colors as well. So it will keep the same settings, but, try to reproduce what is out of the gamut. What might be interesting, because it means it's out of gamut, but the printer will deliver something, and it might be that is something that you will normally not get, but then with these color charts you will be able to see them and see if you like it and use them. So I can select them as well.
Yeah.
And for example, if I want to save it afterwards to use in the software for design, if I want to create any designs afterwards, I can generate the libraries files, so after I can import them. So now if I click on generate, of course I'm using relative colorimetric to be more accurate. It could be even absolute. I just need to define what I want to save it. I just call it test color book, for example. This one as well. Well, now the software is just going through all the profile and generating the colors. Of course, in this case, you have most probably here thousands of colors. It might not be needed to have so many on the color book. But yeah, just leave the standards settings. And as you can see, it will print from the light to dark and to the less saturated to the most saturated. So it's like, it's simple. Just go around and go different hue and just show you as if you have the sphere of LEB and cut it in page, let's say.
So that allows me as a customer to print those color books, give my designers or my customers' designers the corresponding swatch files. They can physically hold the color book that I've printed and pick the same color in their Adobe application as they've got in the color book. They can see what it's going to print like in real. That's awesome. So that's really closed looping. And I guess if you are printing, to say textiles, for example, large format print, that's great because there's almost no need to proof that color because you have the color on the substrate from the printer with the corresponding file for your design software.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
If I'm not wrong, there was the question that, for example, just to continue the point of how can use these files afterwards for for the design softwares. I would just open here the swatch book for one thing. For example, I have here my list, right? And what you have done now before was changing this orange color, right? And it's correct. So basically, if you want, to update the library that you are using in your design softwares, you can just come here, export. You can select a different format that is supported on the design software, save it, and then import it in the design software. And then this new color will be there as well.
Okay, that's cool. So you really can modify colors and really design for the color you can produce rather than designing for the nearest color.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Right, we're nearly at the end. There's 2 more topics to cover. That's it. So nearly time for a coffee. There's been a rise in the number of printers that can print on clear film, so the image can be seen from both inside and outside of a window. It's really common in bus advertising, for example. Usually the kind of rips that people get when they buy a printer don't have these kind of features to be able to handle this. Can you show us how Ergosoft can cope with that so that we can set a job up, actually have it print so I can see the image from the outside and the inside? Because a lot of customers can't actually do that, even though their printers are capable of it.
Well, actually, that's a good thing to know that the customers are looking for a solution for that. So the first thing actually that you need is, well, if our machine supports that, it might be that you don't know how to use it as well, because those machines support, like, we can call it like 5 layer modes. Well, I know that there are different markings that call it different ways, but let's call it five layer mode, let's say. Well, yeah, it supports some machines that can do that, but of course you need, before do a job for the 5 layer modes, you need to set up the correct settings, and that will depend on the printer, right? But the logic will be the same, because afterwards you can do different types of jobs with 5 layer modes. You can have the same image on both sides, you can have different image, so it depends on what you want to use. In this case, I have a print environment already set up as a standard mode, same image in one side and on the outside. Let's say to put on the window, so the people outside and the people inside can see exactly the same thing. So if you notice, if I change it once again, the print environment, look to the job, it changed, right? So this is the printable area. If I now change for the printer with multi-layer, you see that it divides, let's say, my workspace in two. And this is because when you use these printers or these drivers with the correct modes for 5 layer modes, let's say, it will divide the job in two parts, so you can define what is printed in first and after. So what is printed right on the film and what is printed on the top. So let's do one example. I will just import an image right now. Let's go to this one. So I have here the image. This is what we're going to be printed first on the material. And if I import now the same image as well, I just need to bring it to this side. And now if I send this to print, basically I will have the same image on both sides of the film. Of course, one thing I need to do, I need to select my image. And of course, I will need to go to the extra channels, that this can be set by default. Okay, I don't need to do it manually. You could have done already a preset to be set. I just need to, set the background as white, because it will need to have an opaque layer. And of course, you can use more ink channels, more white channels if you needed to make it more opaque. And now if I just send it to print, I just need to go to my printer and see how it comes with the 5 layer modes.
Well, that was easy. So
yeah,
combining the presets for the extra channels and the print environment for this printing mode, the customer really doesn't have to think about a great deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. And I promise this is the final topic, which is money. So everybody's looking at costs these days, and customers have told me, lots of different customers told me this. They'd really like to know how much a job actually costs them to print. So lots of people have an Excel spreadsheet or a piece of paper and a pen, and they work out how much a job costs. Certainly, when you've got a printer with bundled RIP software, as we know, people strip. Those manufacturers strip a lot of features out of that software to make it be deliverable with the printer. So a lot of those kind of customers say they want to know how much it actually costs to produce a job, and their software doesn't deliver that. How does Ergosoft allow a customer to accurately cost what something is printed?
Okay, that's quite an easy question. Let me just close this job and have here a clean area. So if you go to the control center, that's here. If you go to the tab of tools, you will see that there is an option here called Cost Manager, right? So if you open it, well, I already have here some examples, but on the first tab, you have the media list. So you can create a library of medias, depending on all the materials that you have, right? Because you can have multiple ones. And you just need to create a media and give it the cost per square meter. Of course, there is the currency is US dollars. You can change that. That will not affect your cost calculation. Besides the media, there is an area where you can set the cost of your printer per hour And these, well, you can decide what is that cost. And then you have a list for creating a library of inks that you can define the costs. For example, let me just edit this one so you understand how you can set the cost for inks. For example, I said that it costs $5 US per milliliter. Okay, it's just, fake number. And it's set for all inks. But if you want, you can select one individual ink from the list, like for example, the orange and red, and you can set a specific value for that one, because there are inks that have more cost than the others. But they will stay in the group because that's the group that you will use in one machine, let's say. So as you can see, you can create libraries with costs for the different consumables that you use on your printer, plus the cost per hour. And even if you want, you can add, well, if you don't add the cost per hour of the machine, you can add the cost per square meter. Okay. So you might decide that per square meter, the machine costs you X, and you could set it in here. I will not use this one. And then you can come here, select from the different libraries and apply them to the print environments. So you could select that to apply this one and assign it. And these two libraries will be assigned. So now, for example, if I close and come to the, the job composer, if you open the print environment, if you go to general, you'll be able to see the media that is on the list for this print environment. Okay. Of course, you can actually add a new one from here if you want. And if you go to the cost factor, you can see the cost of the ink. And as well, you can set the cost per square meter. Just one thing, make sure that the driver that you are using contains the value or the volume for the dots of your printer. It might be that some drivers will not have it, but you can always add those values manually in here.
Okay.
So
because calculating ink cost is the most difficult for customers, isn't it? It's the hardest part for them to work out.
Yeah. And this is really needed, because you will, if you don't know the volume of the drops, well, you cannot calculate how much ink was used. Well, you will know how many drops or dots you have used for the job, but you don't know exactly what's the value of ink in there. So I just click OK. And now, for example, if I just import an image like this one, and if you go to the properties and actions of the job, there is here the estimated production cost, and I can just go to calculate, and it will just give me an average of how much it will cost this job. And remember, I just said an average because the ink consumption might differ from the consumption of ink after the RIP process, because you have to think here the image is not being RIP. Okay, so that process didn't happen. So actually, all the math that is done after to know how many drops of cyan are printing on the pixel in the position 1,1 is, is still not precise. So it's an average. So of course the value might differ after printing, because there all that calculation has been done. So if you send it to print, and now let's just go to our queue that is in here. Well, you don't need the queue for the printer 5, but actually could, because this job was being sent to the printer pool, so we could use the printer 5 to see it. So let's just go here and highest priority and just print it. And now if you go here to done, here it is. And if you click with the right button and go to the production data, you can see here the costs for our job.
Brilliant. Okay.
And of course, you can see more in detail for the ink. So which ink was, how much was used. And as well, like if you want, you can, just export this data to use it, save it or use it in any administration software that the customer might have.
So like a Microsoft format or something. Okay, brilliant. Okay, that's cool. A good one to end on, money. Right, I think that we've covered all the topics that we wanted to discuss today, Hélder. So thank you very much. Very informative session, and I've learned a lot from this. So thanks for sharing your very in-depth knowledge.
You're welcome.
For everybody watching the video, there's more information can be found on the Ergosoft RIP and all the tools at our website, which is www.ergosoft.net. And you can go to our user portal if you sign in and get very, very extensive user documentation. If you've got any direct questions you want to ask us, you can email us at es.info@ergosoft.net. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.